Hello and welcome. This is the Life Optimizer podcast, where science meets everyday life. My name is Viktoriya, a Yale trained midwife, passionate about holistic health and wellness. Today, we're talking about something very, very important, which is our food, the nutrition that we feed our body with. I have a question for you. Is your hair falling out? Are you feeling tired all the time? Are you waking up and are you foggy? Your brain is foggy and you have a hard time making decisions. And you maybe don't know where to start in your health journey to improving how you feel. This is the perfect podcast for you because the things we're going to talk about today are going to address places where you can improve so that you can improve your hormone function and your overall well-being and how you feel. So the objective of today's podcast is to really explore the impact of food on health, and that includes addressing how food impacts men and women's hormones and health. Okay, so food as information. Food is foundational for optimizing metabolism, hormone function, and overall health. And that's why we're starting on this topic. Whole nutrient dense foods support the body's natural processes and balance. And so food is used for cellular repair and the production of tissues. It's used to make neurotransmitters, so dopamine, serotonin. Food helps with memory and focus, plays a role in physical and mental well-being. There's even this other aspect of food, which is called nutrigenomics, which is the study of how genes and nutrition interact with one another. So food is more than just calories, and it's more than just protein, fat, and carbs, even though, yes, of course, it has all that. But food actually tells your body how to transcribe DNA and which proteins to synthesize and make so that they can then go on and have function in your body. So that's really important, right? So the things that you eat will actually tell your DNA to activate, to be transcribed, and then to function. Because genes, they're just DNA until that DNA is expressed. It's not doing anything. And so food plays a role in this. And how can we see examples of this, or can we see examples of where food plays an essential role in our health? And I have many examples, but I'll just share a couple. So there was a study that showed that adopting a healthy diet can significantly reduce the prevalence of chronic diseases. And so they took a group of people, they adopted the Mediterranean diet, which is a diet high in fruits and veggies, whole grains, high in fats like olive oil, eating things like olives, fish. And so adopting this diet suggested that approximately 60% of chronic diseases could be prevented by changing dietary habits. What's another good example? Another good example was COVID-19. So we had patients that were hospitalized that had severe COVID-19 disease. And so there was a study that said, well, who is more likely, or what is the cause of severe hospitalizations, or what are the links to severe hospitalization and severe disease in COVID-19? And so what was found is that 63.5% of hospitalizations for COVID-19 were the result of a poor diet. The diet affected the way that the organs of the people that had severe disease, that their organs and systems functioned, which included the immune system. Okay, one more example. Cancer. Cancer is a big one, right? We hear the diagnosis all the time. Our loved ones are affected by it. Maybe somebody in your family or close to you is affected by it. So they did a study again looking at diet and cancer risk. And what they found is that diet is estimated to contribute to about 1/3 of preventable cancers. That's a lot to say that we can affect about 1/3 of preventable cancers by changing how we eat. How does this work really? Vitamin and mineral deficiencies have been shown to cause DNA damage, and DNA damage is one of the mechanisms of cancer progression. Inadequate intake of essential vitamins and minerals may explain the increased risk of cancer in individuals who consume only small amounts of fruits and vegetables. So consuming fruits and vegetables is cancer protective, is what the study found. Chronic diseases like obesity, hypertension, diabetes happen when we have disturbed metabolism. And disturbed metabolism happens when our lifestyle, which includes the foods that we eat and, of course, other factors. So when our lifestyle and our environment change our gene expression. So in summary, food is the information that helps our body function and our systems work well, or maybe not so well if we're not giving our body the food that it needs and wants. Okay. So, what do we do, right? So that's kind of a morbid thing to know, that food has such a huge impact on our health. So what are the next steps? What do we do with that information? So let's start by learning about the different parts of food. Kind of do a global overview of what parts of food to look at, what's important, what's not as important, and then we'll go from there. So, properties of food. We have your macronutrients, which you all know about: fat, protein, and carbs, and then micronutrients, which are your minerals and vitamins. And of course, food also contains fiber, phytonutrients, the plant genome. So the genes of the plants themselves actually do affect our health. And then we also have the bad things in food, the toxins, right? The glyphosate that we've heard of, other toxins that, the foods absorbed or are treated with, that then become hormone disruptors when we consume them. So let's talk about macronutrients: protein, fat, and carb. Protein. So proteins are made of amino acids. There are 20 different types of amino acids, and they are in a little string, think like pearls that are strung together, and then they intertwine and create a protein. And that protein becomes an enzyme or a receptor and has functions in your cells and in your body. So out of those 20 amino acids, there are essential amino acids and other amino acids. The reason that they're called essential, there are 9 essential amino acids, is because your body can't produce them. So your body can't make them. The amino acids have to come from food sources. And animal-based products contain all 9 of the essential amino acids, as do some plant alternatives. And for the plant alternatives with the essential amino acids, things like soy, quinoa, and buckwheat come to mind. And of course, you can combine 2 different foods. For my vegetarian, vegan friends, you could combine 2 different foods to get all 9 essential amino acids in one meal. And so some examples of protein, of course, is meat, dairy, fish, eggs, beans, lentils. And then one interesting fact about proteins is that neurotransmitters, so things like dopamine, serotonin, that then affect your nerves, affect your things like motivation and function, neurotransmitters are derived from amino acids. There are always, myths when it comes to eating food, what we eat, how we eat. And so one of those myths is that high protein diets can damage your kidneys. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I certainly have. And so, going into the literature and going into research, what the data shows is that a high protein diet actually does not damage the kidneys of individuals, or does not affect the kidney function of individuals that have healthy kidneys. Those that have impaired kidney function should monitor how much protein they consume. So those with impaired function already should for sure be monitoring what they eat, how they eat, etc. Let's move on to carbohydrates. So carbohydrates have a bad reputation, I feel like. So let's talk about it, and then talk about some myths too that have creeped into our understanding of what carbohydrates are and what they do. There are 2 types of carbohydrates. One group is the simple carbohydrates, and another one is complex carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates are sugars that are broken down and digested quickly, and typically they will lead to a quick increase in your blood sugar, a rapid rise in your blood sugar. So like my Frappuccino is an example of simple carbohydrates. So lots of just really easily digested and easily absorbed sugar. Our body doesn't have to work hard to absorb it. It goes straight into our bloodstream, and our blood sugar rises. Other simple carbohydrates: white bread, pasta. And then complex carbohydrates are made up of longer chains of sugar molecules and are digested more slowly. And typically, they give a more gradual rise in blood sugar. So your blood sugar, because they're digested slowly, that blood sugar is released into your bloodstream much more slowly. And a lot of them are kind of like have a codon, which means that they come together with fiber. And fiber is really important for gut health, which we'll talk about in just a second. But fiber slows down digestion, makes you feel fuller longer, etc. And so that's one other sort of benefit of these complex carbohydrates, is that they not only have a more gradual rise in blood sugar, they also come typically with more fiber. So most vegetables fall in the complex carbohydrate group, whole grains, lentils, and beans are just some examples. So there is, of course, so much controversy or discussion, and a lot of places say that carbohydrates are just bad for us and that all carbohydrates cause weight gain and metabolic issues, things like diabetes, obesity, etc. The truth is that whole food sources of carbohydrates, such as fruits, vegetables, legumes, provide essential nutrients, which include fiber, include vitamins, include phytonutrients that are crucial for gut health and metabolism. So the primary concern lies when we eat or indulge or overindulge in simple carbohydrates that have a lot of added sugar to it to them as well. So one study emphasized that, again, carbohydrates are are an important source of energy, but the type of carbohydrate consumed really is what matters most. So as I was talking about, essential amino acids, carbohydrates are not quote unquote essential, meaning our body can do well without carbohydrates. So if you never ate bread again, our body would do fine. We might suffer. We might feel like we're being deprived, but our body would do fine. With the caveat that a lot of carbohydrates, like I talked about, the complex carbohydrates, what they do is they carry in them fiber, they carry in them vitamins and minerals, which are important to our health. So it's this balance of, again, focusing more on eating more complex carbohydrates for our health. Okay. All right, let's talk about fat. Yes, we do need to eat fat. Yes, it's important for our health. And so, you might be thinking, well, what kind of fat should I be eating? There's so much out there about this fat is bad, that fat is good. So let's set the record straight. So there are two types of fat: unsaturated fat and saturated fat. Fat molecules have carbon atoms that are lined up together and that have hydrogen atoms typically coming off of the carbon atoms. So unsaturated fats will have a double bond between two of the carbons that causes the molecule to kink. Okay, one or two or multiple double bonds between a pair of the carbons. So those are your unsaturated fats. And then saturated fats typically will have a hydrogen on every carbon. And so they're more of a linear line. Okay, that's I don't know. That's just fun facts. That's just nerd speak for that. So unsaturated fats are usually liquid at room temperature. So the easy way to kind of remember which fat is which unsaturated are typically liquid. So think your olive oil, right? Think your nut butters, where when you take a nut butter out and you let it stand at room temperature, that fat rises to the top and it's liquid. So that's your unsaturated. Your avocados and nuts, like I said, that contain that within the foods. Unsaturated fats tend to improve cholesterol, improve blood sugar, and help with cardiovascular diseases. So protective to our blood vessels, which is amazing. And so they're thought to be more anti-inflammatory. There are two types of unsaturated fats: mono and polyunsaturated. So monounsaturated is they have one double bond, and the monounsaturated fats protect the heart, support insulin sensitivity, and promote weight loss, which is amazing. And then polyunsaturated have multiple double bonds between carbon atoms, and there are two categories, which are your omega-6s and omega-3s. That's why these typically are thought to be as the healthier fats. Okay. So what about saturated fat? Saturated fat is solid at room temperature. So think your butter, think the marbling on a steak that's at room temperature, right? That's white. That's your saturated fat. And it's thought to be more inflammatory. So fat is tricky because it's important. We need it. Obviously, like I said, especially the unsaturated fat is really healthy for us and really protective in many areas. But it's tricky because sometimes we want to take the fat out and go low fat, but that can contribute to more issues. So I'll give you an example. Yogurt is a great example. Yogurt as it is a processed food, meaning, when it comes out of a cow, milk comes out of a cow. It's not yogurt. We have to do things to it to then create yogurt. So it's considered a processed food. When we take that yogurt and then make it non-fat, we take the fat out. And so what you're left with is like, essentially like watery goo. It's like this watery, it's not very appealing to eat. And so what the food industry has done is they've added other things like carrageenan to give it a mouthfeel as though it has fat in it, without the fat, and other things that they add to the yogurt. So the issue becomes when that stuff is added, it actually is inflammatory and negatively affects our gut microbiome. And so that's something to consider. So low fat or non-fat might not be the best thing for us. So definitely something to think about and take pause. So again, many myths and misunderstandings about fat. And one of the myths about fat is that it's bad for you, and that eating it leads to weight gain and increases the risk of heart disease. And so I think you already know where I'm going with this. The truth is that healthy fats, especially omega-3s, monounsaturated fats, are essential for various bodily functions like brain health, hormone production, cellular integrity. And so the primary concern is having a diet that's high in trans fats. And we know that added trans fats have been outlawed or removed from the market since I think 2015 or 16 by the FDA. And so there are only a couple foods or a few foods, and typically these are animal products, that do contain some trans fat in them in small amounts. But in general, again, focusing on the healthier versions of the fat, it will be essential, will help with your hormone production and be protective to your health. Okay, let's talk about micronutrients. So micronutrients are minerals and vitamins that the body needs for disease prevention, healthy development, and growth. The body does not produce micronutrients. So this is another essential part. So as I talked about before, maybe carbohydrates are not essential, but micronutrients are essential. Your body cannot produce them. And so if you're not eating them, you don't have them. This is so important because our diet really lacks minerals and vitamins. And so this is a big thing that we can all focus on today, to really pay attention to give our body the nutrients that it needs to go through cellular functioning, to go through and allow hormones to function, etc. So micronutrients, they help the body produce enzymes and hormones. They're active participants in cellular processes, and they're found, of course, in whole foods. So nuts, seeds, dairy, meat, fruits, and veggies. One example of this is salt. So salt is really important. Sodium and potassium are important. The sodium potassium pump is all over our body. It helps our nerves send impulses through the sodium potassium gradient. So that's really important for our body's functioning. And so this is one micronutrient that we really need to pay attention to. But when we look at that, salt in general has been sort of villainized. We say that salt increases your blood pressure, and salt, you need to be on a low salt or no salt diet. Well, I have news for you. That's not, completely true. So the truth is, while excessive consumption of processed sodium that's found in junk foods is harmful, natural sources of sodium, such as unprocessed sea salt, are essential for hydration and nerve function and maintaining electrolyte balance. Okay, so scientific evidence shows that while decreasing sodium intake can help lower blood pressure in some individuals, so again, these are typically folks that are getting a lot of that processed salt from processed foods. The relationship between salt and blood pressure is very complicated, and it varies from person to person. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple examples, but back to the sodium potassium. This is potentially a time where we focus on what we drink, not only what we eat. So coconut water is probably one of my favorite electrolytes because it has a perfect combination of sodium, potassium, magnesium, other electrolytes. And so it's a hydrating drink, more or less lower on the calorie side. There are other hydrating electrolytes, natural hydrating electrolyte drinks, which are, raw carrot juice, orange juice are typically have higher sugar content, and juice in general tends to spike your blood sugar quite a bit. So, things to think about, we would rather eat an orange than drink an orange, just because eating an orange also allows us to take that fiber that will feed our gut bacteria. But just some things to consider in terms of sometimes, doing a drink and taking into consideration sodium and potassium in form of electrolytes added to your water, things like that, might be another way to nourish your body. Okay, so examples of micronutrients in action. This is huge for me. So one example is that micronutrients increase the ability for our cells to respond to insulin, which is the hormone that helps control blood sugar. And we know everything that we're talking about recently, the Alzheimer's disease being called type 3 diabetes, and how important insulin is, and how important not having insulin resistance is. And so the idea that micronutrients, minerals, and vitamins can help insulin do its job is huge. Another example of micronutrients in action is micronutrients in thyroid function. So your thyroid is a gland that lives here, and it secretes hormones that then travel to all over your body. And the thyroid hormones affect your so many things, right? And we talked about something like hair loss in the beginning, things like hair loss, weight loss or weight gain, mood. Lots of things are affected by your thyroid gland. And so what can we do to support it? And you would be surprised. So the thyroid gland, I'm going to just tell you that the thyroid gland, in order for it to work properly, we need iodine, selenium, iron, zinc, copper, vitamin B12. And so all of these micronutrients are needed. And again, your body can't make it. We have to get it from our food. And so this is something to consider when supporting your thyroid. So things like your Brazil nuts, your pine nuts, dates, figs, all of those things have small amounts of good micronutrients for our body to function. Okay, stress. Stress is another one where micronutrients are critical. They are crucial because in times of stress, what our body does is our body kind of burns through our micronutrients faster. So on a non-stress day, you might need a certain level of micronutrients. And then on a stress day, you need a much higher level. And so they have to come from somewhere. And that somewhere is food. And I mean, I don't know about you, but on stressful days or extra stressful days, most people don't crave apples, bananas, Brazil nuts. Most people crave, comfort food, things that are fried, baked, etc., which is a different conversation for a different day why that happens. But in times of stress, it's very important for you and me, for us to support our body and focus on eating higher levels of our micronutrients, our B vitamins, C, zinc, iron, calcium. So really should be focused on that. Where else are micronutrients important? So we talked about male and female hormone health. So let's just highlight a couple, okay? Some studies have shown that micronutrients, especially vitamin A, E, zinc, and selenium, play a crucial role in regulation of male hormones and sperm production. Whoa. And we know that over the last 50 years, there are studies to show that sperm count has gone down. And some of it has to do with the lack of micronutrients that men are getting in their diet. And so, again, vitamin E, zinc, vitamin E is one of the higher micronutrient deficiencies that I've seen. And again, selenium plays a high role. All of these you can get from food. I'm not telling you to go and get 8 bottles of vitamins. You want to consume vitamins in the form of food as close to the natural state as possible, because overdoing one vitamin can affect the level of another vitamin. So you always want to try to get your vitamins from food sources if possible, or at least as close to food sources as possible. So for men, one more thing is selenium deficiency can lead to reduced sperm quality and hormonal imbalances, just that one deficiency alone. So something definitely to pay attention to for, during the reproductive years. Okay, what else? For women, micronutrients like vitamin D, E, vitamin C, zinc, and folate are crucial to female reproductive function and fertility. Again, paying attention to foods that are high in micronutrients. And some women will consume or are encouraged to consume pumpkin seeds in the first 2 weeks of their cycle and sunflower seeds in the second 2 weeks of their cycle to support their cycle and the vitamins and minerals that their body needs to produce the hormones that they're producing on a cyclical basis, which is really interesting. So that's definitely something to consider. And all you need is about 2 tablespoons per day of those seeds, sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds in the beginning and sunflower seeds in the second part of your cycle, which is amazing. So when talking about micronutrients, there is a myth that all necessary nutrients can be obtained only from food. So I know I said that it's the best thing to really try to get your micronutrients from food, but we can't always get it from food, right? So there's definitely some truth that we should get it from food, but sometimes we need a supplement to carry us over. Okay, modern agricultural practices, soil depletion, food processing can really reduce the nutrient density in our food. High quality supplements can help bridge the gap, or as you're changing your diet, can help support you as you're doing that. Or for individuals that really are having a hard time keeping up, might be, a high quality supplement might help in that. So one example that I can just think of is vitamin D. So for folks that live in dark climates in the winter, really have dark, long winters, that can affect sun exposure. And we get our vitamin D from sun exposure and some from food as well. And so a nutrient, a vitamin D and plus a K2 supplement might help to supplement through that time where sun exposure is an issue and you are not getting adequate sun exposure. So that's definitely something to consider. So while a balanced diet is the best way to obtain nutrients, supplements can be beneficial in certain situations. Okay, fiber. Fiber is a fun one because it is just so important for us as well. So it's important for your health, which includes the health of your gut microbiome. Everybody's talking about that right now, how important it is, and pay attention because fiber is a really big part of this. So fiber, what is fiber? Fiber is the ingestible parts of plants that pass through the digestive system without being absorbed. Okay, so technically fiber is a carbohydrate, so probably should have talked about it then, but I decided that it needed its own section. So fiber is found in fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and seeds. There are two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. Soluble fiber is fiber that dissolves in water and forms a gel-like substance that slows down digestion. Soluble fiber is good for your gut bacteria and can significantly influence your gut microbiome. So really, really good. Soluble fiber is good for blood sugar control and to lower cholesterol. So if you have a high hemoglobin A1C and you're trying to help control your blood glucose, you should include foods that have high levels of soluble fiber in them that will help control your blood sugar. And I'll explain how. Okay. Insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water, so it adds bulk to your stool and speeds up movement through the digestive tract. And this type of fiber is only slightly fermented. And this type of fiber helps with regular bowel movements and preventing constipation. So soluble feeds your gut microbiome, is good for blood sugar control, lower cholesterol, and then insoluble helps with regular bowel movements and preventing constipation. Fiber is actually a prebiotic. Remember how I said it's feeding your gut bacteria. So our microbiome is a population of bugs, or microbes, I should say, that live in our gut, and particularly in the small and large intestines. And fiber helps the good gut bacteria to flourish and take up space in your gut, which prevents the bad gut bacteria from taking space in your gut. So when gut bacteria consumes fiber, they release acids that keep the colon healthy. So the good bacteria in the gut produce nutrients that can improve immune function. They produce short chain fatty acids, something like butyrate, maybe you've heard of, that are healing for your gut and go to your brain too. Good bacteria make vitamins and anti-cancer compounds. And I think the data says 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. Okay, so that's really important. So feeding that gut bacteria helps produce the all the goodies, all the good things. So what happens when you don't eat enough fiber? And this is important. So if you typically are not a big fruit vegetable person, not a big fiber person, pay attention. So what happens when the bacteria don't have enough fiber? They still have to consume something. So what they start to do is they may start eating the protective mucus lining in the gut. So your intestine, right? We think of it as a tube, but really inside the tube are little bristles, little villi that are all covered with mucus. And the mucus is protective, meaning that it doesn't allow the stuff that's inside your gut to go into your body, and then allows for a slow digestion and slow taking up of the nutrients that your body thinks are important to go in, and then keeping the bad stuff out. Well, when the bacteria start to eat the mucus, your gut becomes porous. And maybe you've heard of leaky gut, or as we say, increased intestinal permeability. And so that's something to pay attention to. So if your bacteria don't have that, there are other things, of course, that can affect gut permeability, other inflammatory diseases, conditions. Stress can really affect this as well. But this is one thing. So if the bacteria don't have enough fiber, they will start to eat away at the mucus. So fiber, fiber, fiber. So intake of fiber decreases your risk of diabetes, as we talked about. Fiber helps with weight management. So how does this work? Fiber-rich foods help you feel full because they stay in the stomach longer, helping you feel full, and the stomach is emptied slower versus emptying really, really fast, which leads to overeating. And then fiber has potential to protect from colon cancer risk, and it improves heart health and lowers cholesterol levels. Soluble fiber binds to cholesterol and lowers LDL levels. So that's kind of cool. Let's talk about the next thing. So I've harped enough about fiber. Let's talk about calories. So there's so much information out there about calories and how important they are. And the myth is that all calories are equal. They're all the same. As long as you eat a certain amount of calories, you won't gain weight or you won't lose weight. But the truth is the body metabolizes different macronutrients in different ways. And so not every calorie is created equal. It expands energy. Your body expands energy to break down fats, proteins, and carbs. And that energy expenditure is actually different for each one. So, three easy examples, right? When you eat protein, your body burns more calories to digest that protein and to put it away than it does when you eat carbs and when you eat fat, which is interesting, right? So you eat a carb or a fat, the body uses up less energy to digest it and put it away. When you eat protein, the body has to use a lot more energy to digest it and put it away. Okay. Another example is fiber slows down digestion, promotes the feeling of fullness. So foods with fiber make you feel fuller longer. Okay, we talked about that already. And then refined carbohydrates like breads and cereals can cause insulin spikes because why? They create an increase in sugar, which then has insulin come out and take the sugar up. So they increase or cause sugar spikes, which can lead to fat storage. Okay, so not every calorie is created equal. So the bottom line is studies have shown that diets higher in protein can increase the burning of calories and increase the feeling of being satiated by food as compared to diets that are higher in carbohydrates and fats. Okay. So, not all calories are the same, and it's not all about calories. As we learned above, there's so much more hidden in food, so much information. And so, you want to eat not too much, not too little, and really allow your body to be in homeostasis while providing all the other things from the foods that you eat. There's a really interesting study done, I think, at the NIH by Kevin Hall. And what they did is they investigated if ultra processed foods affect energy intake. So what does that mean? If eating ultra processed foods increases or decreases how much food you eat. So they broke up the participants into two groups. One group was given ultra processed foods and one group was given a whole food diet, and they gave them the same amount of protein, fat, carbs. So they had plenty to choose from. They had plenty of food, and they were told, don't gain any weight, don't lose any weight. Eat as much as you need, as much as you want, but just stay the same. Okay. So they were on this diet for 2 weeks. And again, everything was matched. And so the interesting thing is that they found that in the ultra processed food group, that group consumed 500 more calories per day, thinking that they were eating the same 500 more calories per day. And in the food that they increased eating, they didn't increase protein. They increased eating carbs and fats, the things that are easy to digest. So eating ultra processed foods cause them, to consume more calories and more fat calories and carb calories, or calories from those foods. So think about it. Over the course of those 2 weeks, that group in the ultra processed pod, so to speak, the participants that were eating the ultra processed foods, they actually gained 2.5 pounds over that course, that time. Okay. And so that's, that's where we have to understand that it's not only about calories. The foods that we eat then affect our genes, then affect, the cravings that we have, because they affect hormones. And so it's such a big picture. Okay. And so choosing the whole food diet as much of the time as possible really is the way to go. That's what the data is showing over and over again. So what else? I want to talk about one other topic, which is how we eat. So this is really important. I was thinking about that today as I was scarfing down my breakfast as I was driving, and I was like, yeah, this is not good. Why do I say that? Because we need to eat in a state of relaxation. We need to tell our nervous system, hey, I'm about to eat food. I need you to digest this food. And that sounds really funny and weird, but that's true. So our nervous system has an autonomic arm, so to speak, and the autonomic nervous system has a parasympathetic batch, and then a sympathetic batch. So what does that mean? The parasympathetic part of the nervous system is responsible for our rest and digest states. So when we rest, take breaks, relax, and when we digest food. And the sympathetic is, I'm going to run away from a bear, I'm going to run away from, etc. I am really stressed. And so it helps us deal with stress. It increases blood pressure, blood flow to your muscles, decreases blood flow to your gut, etc. So when we're stressed, and then we try to eat, and all our blood flow is going to everywhere else except our gut, food has a harder time being digested. And a lot of things happen. So how can we affect this? The vagus nerve is a very important cranial nerve, travels from the brain to many, many organs in the body, and innervates and shares information. So it is an important nerve for your gut and your your digestive system, your heart, and other organs. And it is part of the parasympathetic, or rest and digest branch. Okay. This nerve determines gut motility, how quickly food moves through your intestine, and it can impact gut permeability. Remember, we talked about the leaky gut. It can even impact that because, well, as we talked about, stress and other factors. And it affects the release of digestive enzymes from the pancreas to help you digest the food even better. So many ways that the vagus nerve affects your gut and the digestion of food. So research shows that activating the vagus nerve before you eat, so telling your body, hey, I'm going to rest and digest my food, improves so many things. It improves digestion, and it improves blood sugar control after meals, and reduces the calorie intake so that you feel fuller sooner. So 3 things that you can do. So let me go through that, and then we're going to talk about how to actually do this. So how does it improve digestion? It promotes gut motility and allows for efficient digestion. Okay, allows that food to be digested, and micronutrients and macronutrients to be well absorbed. It improves, again, blood sugar control after meals, and reduces the calorie intake. So how does that work? So I want to tell you a little bit about the GLP-1 drugs, right? So, well, maybe I don't want to tell you about that. I want to tell you about the GLP-1 molecules and the receptors. Why? There's so much talk right now about the, Ozempic and other medications. There's so much talk about medications that help with weight loss. And so lots of conversations about that, and a lot of folks using that medication. So the vagus nerve actually is a natural way to stimulate the GLP-1 receptor to allow you to feel fuller sooner, and to allow you to stop eating sooner. So, okay, well, that's interesting, right? So let me go through it. The vagus nerve activates the GLP-1 receptors. That those receptors then signal to the brain that you're full. And so the GLP-1 tells the brain, hey, I'm full. So after eating, the vagus nerve and the GLP-1 receptors, they typically begin to activate within 15 to 20 minutes of starting a meal. And then that peak activation occurs around 30 minutes after the meal. And signals are sent to your brain to tell your brain, hey, I'm full. I don't need to keep eating. The exact timing varies on a couple of factors, but that's just a general guideline. That's why it takes about 20 minutes for us to feel full. So if you have scarfed down 3 burgers in 10 minutes, your brain hasn't received the signal that you're full and you're like, oh man, I'm still hungry. If you have eaten really, really fast, have you ever noticed that, oh man, time goes by and you're like, I overate. That was way too much food. How did that happen? I feel stuffed. You ate too fast and the vagus nerve didn't have time to send the signal to the brain to say, hey, you don't need to eat anymore. You're full. That's plenty. Okay. I can go through it even more, but maybe I won't bore you with the mechanism of action of GLP-1 release and receptors. But again, factors that are important, or additional factors that are important in the activation time, is that studies have found that meals that have high fiber and protein content tend to stimulate that GLP-1 release more effectively, which means that you feel satiated quicker. So fiber and protein make you feel fuller faster, and satiated faster, and that signal is sent faster. So some people may experience faster or slower activation based on their gut health and, of course, vagus nerve function. Okay, so super important to do it. So how do we activate the vagus nerve so that we can tell our brain, hey, rest and digest my food, tell me that I'm full on time? Well, one is to slow down, but before you even start eating, sit down to eat. So that's one thing. And yes, as I said before, sitting in your car and eating behind the wheel, that does not count as sitting down to eat. I mean, at a table, no distractions, put everything away and sit down to eat. Okay. Take 30 to 60 seconds. So really 1 minute, one literal minute when you sit down to eat, just to take a couple deep breaths. And again, I know that sounds weird, but it tells your body, I'm going to rest and digest. I need you. I was stressed running around. I had a project. I had a meeting. I was late to picking up the kids, whatever. And right now, I'm going to take 30 to 60 seconds and just take a few deep breaths to tell my body that I am ready to digest the food, activating that vagus nerve. So sit down to eat, 30 to 60 seconds, a couple of deep breaths. It doesn't have to be anything drastic. Just again, being aware, taking a deep breath in and deep breath out, and then eat without distractions. Eat without distractions. And again, when you do that, when you give your body a couple seconds, you look at your food, you smell your food in that time, right? You're not on your phone giving your body a break. You put your phone away, everything's away. You notice, oh, like I have saliva, right? So that's the digestion process starting. Your body is getting ready to eat. So vagus nerve, super important in when you activate that vagus nerve, it's going to tell your body that you're full at an appropriate time. Eat and chew your food. And remember, it's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes on average for that GLP receptor to be activated to tell your body, hey, I'm full. I don't need to eat anymore. So let's just go through a couple important takeaways and things to consider in nutrition. So eat a diet that's diverse and full of whole foods, as absolutely possible. So include diverse fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds. Balance macronutrients. Try to have each meal contain a protein, a fat, and a carb. So, if you notice, breakfast is typically like carb, 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 right? And so what that does is it increases your blood sugar really quickly, drops the blood sugar really quickly because insulin jumps on that blood sugar, takes it in, and stores it. It doesn't want your blood sugar to be high, so insulin is working hard. And so you want to put protein and fat in that meal to give you the feeling of being satiated, one, to give the feeling to your brain, hey, I'm full. And again, protein is really good for it burns calories when you eat. It's good for muscle mass. So if you're working out, definitely important to time your protein and the amount of protein. I can go on and on. Okay. Hydration. Make sure that you are properly hydrating. Consider the electrolytes when you're hydrating. Maybe putting some lemon water, drinking some lemon water, trace minerals, things like that. And limit toxins. Limit things that come in a box or a can that are pre-packaged and processed. Typically they have a lot of additives. Limit toxins on our foods by properly washing them, getting rid of any kind of residue of chemicals, etc. Getting rid of toxins which are in artificial sweeteners. So eat minimally processed foods as much as possible. And don't forget the vagus nerve. Sit down to eat, not in your car. That doesn't count. At a table, sit down to eat. Take a couple deep breaths, take 1 minute to tell your body that you're going to digest your food, and then eat without distractions, paying attention to what you're eating. Okay, so key takeaway: eating a diet that's diverse and minimally processed not only fuels your body, but also supports mental clarity, emotional stability, and overall wellness. Your gut is the gatekeeper to your health, and so feed it wisely. As you know, we do the Optimizer Challenge here on the Life Optimizer podcast. And so my Optimizer Challenge for you this week is, and this has been a game changer for my family and my picky eaters. So I am sharing it with you, and I cannot wait to hear in the comments about how it's going for you. So, couple things, or one thing that I challenge you this week, which is, have you and your family, if roommates, etc., people you're in close contact with, eat 5 colors a day. So try to focus on eating 5 colors a day. It feeds your gut microbiome. It gives you different nutrients from each vegetable or fruit that you're eating, and start there. If you really want to be adventurous, go for 8 colors a day. And if you really want to be adventurous, studies show that 30 different fruits and vegetables, not so much colors, but 30 different fruits and vegetables per week is ideal number for gut microbiome health. Okay, that's like level 3, like we'll get there someday. So I'm going to share with you. So my picky eaters were eating only a few fruits or vegetables, and that's it. And this has been a life changer for my kids, a game changer for my kids, I should say. So now, kids think in colors. They don't think, oh, you need this vitamin or that vitamin. And so it's been easy for them to say, hey, I've had a green, a red, a blue, a purple. And so even my picky eaters will pick something up to get a 5th color in. And I love that. I'm telling you, it has been amazing. So please share in the comments and on social media your experience with this, your experience with nutrition. I can't wait to hear it. So remember, tiny changes lead to a whole new you. Start optimizing today. Thanks for being here.